Let's talk about consultations. Yes. So there are two sheets that are going to go along with this coaching session. One is your worksheet, and that is, or it's attached to the video here, and then it's the client intake form. And this has been in the group for a while, but I just updated it, cleaned it up a little bit, made it a little bit easier in one sheet. And then for instructions, if you need a walkthrough on how to use it, we'll go over it today in the coaching session, but there is a link to a YouTube video where I went through and described a lot of things on here, because what I have on here is a lot of kind of medical conditions that would make somebody contraindicated to getting lashes that we kind of go over. So I won't spend a whole lot of time going through that today because it is recorded in that video. So today is solely about the strategy and the practice of using your consultation to help eliminate a lot of the problems we run into as lash artists and business owners. As business owners, the key thing with our clients is communication and making sure that they're aware of everything that goes on in our kind of back end that would affect them. So, and knowing what options they have if they're unhappy with something. And so setting up the consultation is so important just for setting up boundaries. So let's just dive right in. So a lack of communication leaves too much room for the imagination, which is why clients either get really unhappy or blame you for everything. It's because they're filling in the gaps of knowledge that you as the business owner or the lash artist has not set forth for them. So if their lashes are falling out after 2 weeks and you didn't explain to them what's expected results or how to take care of them, then they're blaming you. They think it's your fault that you're a bad lash artist, that you're a bad business owner because you won't give them a free whatever to make them happy. And yes, the client is always right, but I don't really buy into that. There's a partnership that happens when somebody becomes a paying client of ours, that we have to open up that communication, and you have to be the leader to do that because they don't know any different and they're paying you. So if you want them to continue to pay you, you kind of need to earn that in a sense. So let's start with the top 3 reasons you should have a consultation with every single new client. I don't care if they're your friend. I don't care if they're a family member. If they are new to your business, you need to have this conversation with them and have them fill out the paperwork and go over expectations. So you set the precedence that, hey, this is actually a business that I'm serious about, and you can have fun with the consultation. It doesn't have to be this really stiff thing. It can be the start of a relationship. But if whenever my friends would come in, I would have them fill out the paperwork just like everyone else. They are treated like a client and respected as a client just like everyone else. We just have already a history and a trust there that I don't have to necessarily establish that. But I want them to know that I take my business seriously and you're not going to walk all over me as a friend. So open the lines of communication, because communication builds trust. So trust is huge in the environment and the industry that we work in, because it is that one-on-one connection. We have our hands on someone's face. We are affecting how they see themselves. There's a lot of vulnerability that comes with that. So we need to be protective of that and ensure that their first experience with us, that first impression, is that we are trustworthy and someone that they can invest more time with and trust us with their physical appearance. So next, create healthy boundaries and sets the expectation for the relationship. So if you start off with open communication, analysis of their lashes, all of the stuff we're going to go through today, they then feel like if they're unhappy, that they don't just have to suck it up or not tell you and move on. They feel like they have a voice in how their procedure goes or how their treatment goes. And this is across all service-based industries, is that if you can open up the communication, they're more willing to give you a second chance or a third chance or a fourth chance, depending on how many times you mess up, because they know that at least you're trying to make things better and you're trying to serve them and make them happy. So by having a consultation where you can start to open up that communication and come off as someone that is open to working on things, even if it's not perfect and exactly the right result for them right away, you have already set the expectation that we'll fix it. Maybe it's a teamwork kind of a thing. Maybe you need to do more on your part and I'll do more on mine. And eventually we'll get you to the result that you're really happy with, because that is all I want, is for you to be really happy with the work that I provide you, right? And it prevents assumptions and minimizes conflicts or bad reviews. So if you've ever gotten a bad Yelp review or a bad Facebook review, think about where communication fell down. Maybe it was just a crazy person and they were just batshit crazy. But for the most part, it's probably because they felt that they had an injustice done to them or that they felt like they weren't heard. So where could you have changed your communication, or how could you have communicated something differently if someone wasn't happy, so much so that they are blasting it out to the world? right? How many times have you felt that you wanted to just rip a company apart because they disserviced you? But if you felt like an injustice was had in your experience with a business, so much so, and they weren't willing to correct it, that you wanted to blast it on social media and every Yelp review, the power of social proof, wouldn't have one little conversation with that business owner or with the management changed everything, where you would have been like, okay, it's fine. And I've done that a couple of times. I mean, I write blogs for a living. So I always, whenever I have a bad experience with a company, I'm like, tempt me with a good time. Let me write a bad review, because I write bad reviews. Like, I give facts, I give how I felt, how they could have corrected it. I go into detail, and I always give people many tries to write me. But like, the worst review I've ever written for someone was because they yelled at me for standing in a doorway with my son. So I had this man yelling at me. It was like a wine bar that was at a children's playground in downtown Vegas. And they didn't allow children in the establishment. And I was standing at the doorway, and this guy is berating me to get out of the doorway with my son. And I was like, chills. Don't mess with mama. So that's the only really terrible review I've left on Yelp. But if that guy had just either established that I wasn't to even come in the doorway, like standing in the doorway was not okay. I knew my kid couldn't be in the bar. I didn't want him in there, but my husband was in there and I was trying to talk to him. Or if he had just been, ma'am, can I have you just for policy purposes, can I just have you stand outside the door, rather than screaming at me across from the bar to get out of the doorway when I'm holding my child. Anyways, so many ways can we circumvent bad reviews or unhappy customers by establishing communication from the beginning. And that's all a consultation is, just a means of communicating. So as part of your consultation, you want to have your policies. So in the file section, there is policies that you can print off and customize to your own business and kind of adjust. There are some ones that I recommend, and I've got a coaching session that we've already gone over, but we'll get into that in a second. Anything that's going to affect their money, you need to establish and have a conversation with them. You need to have your release of liabilities. So getting your lawyer or your insurance, having a policy form or a liability form, release of liability. Sometimes it's called a client waiver. Just anything that states, here's what you have happening to you during this procedure. We're gluing eyelashes to your face. What the risks are, allergic reaction, or, blindness. I mean, that is a legit thing that could happen, right? Gluing contacts to their eye if they keep contacts in, just kind of stating the risks that are associated. A lot of times a photo release. So if you ever are going to use a client's photo on any public forum, then you need to have the client's permission that they sign off on it. So those are kind of some general release of liability. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. So you do need to seek out either a lawyer or an online. I use Rocket Lawyer for a lot of those templates because I can actually talk to a lawyer through their online service and say, is this good enough to cover me in my state or my county? Because each laws differ. Or your insurance might have one as well, because they're going to cover your butt if somebody sues you. So, and then having this client intake form are 3 papers I have every single new client fill out. So make sure that is a part of your either new client touch-up or your new full sets, that they have these documents ready to go, that you've extended their time enough to allow them to fill these out and complete, and to have a conversation with them to go over the information on it. It's not good enough that they just fill it out and you never look at it. It actually is valuable information that you should know. So let's have a quick conversation about how clients perceive us and why they may think something's our fault. So if you have ever gotten a bad haircut, or your hairstylist got the really wrong color and just completely missed the mark, even though you brought in photos of Jennifer Aniston and her 1994 friend's haircut, do you think it was that hairstylist was not good enough, or that not skilled enough, or she didn't have enough training or education or experience? Do you think it was really her fault? Or do you think maybe there was a misinterpretation of the words you were saying that she was perceiving, and she didn't do a good enough job in the consultation to really understand what it was that you were looking at? That's what makes a really good service provider and a really good lash artist, is that they can take the words that the clients say and interpret them in a way that makes sense for the client and understand what the client means. So drama, when a client says drama, I'm like, I don't know what that means. You have to tell me what drama means to you. Show me pictures. I have to take into their lifestyle into factor. So drama for me looks very different than, say, drama to a Kim Kardashian type, right? Very, very different looks, ages, all of that. So we have to be really good at learning what the client is saying and translating it into what makes sense for us, because my drama is different than what the client's drama is. Bold is different. There's a lot of room for interpretation in the words that clients say. So you have to dig a little bit deeper in order for them to get the result that they're looking for. So let's get into my 3-part consultation. So step 1 is that paperwork I talked about. So the client intake form, I'm going to show you, let's see, it's backwards, so that's no fun. But there are their client information, so first name, last name, their phone number. You might even put in, I would just get their cell phone number. I mean, who has a landline anymore? But if they're of the older generation and they still have a landline, it might be nice to have a second means of getting a hold of them in case they're running late or they no-show their appointment. Their email address. And I say that this is kind of optional, but as social media is changing so much with the algorithm and the ability of businesses to reach their customers on social media, you having something you're in control of, your website and an email list, is going to be huge in you helping to grow your marketing efforts besides solely relying on social media. So I think it's really important for you to have their email. You can also use their email inside of Facebook to target people who are like that client. So you can upload your email list into Facebook and use it as an audience and then target people who are similar to those with that email address. More marketing to come. Their address is always nice to have, to send cards, to send thank you notes, to send just little special things. It's always nice to have their address on file. And then their social media. So do they have an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter, a Google, a Snapchat? I mean, what is it they're using for social media? They don't always give it because they think you're somehow going to like stalk them, but it is nice to know where they're hanging out. So if you start to see a lot of clients that have Snapchat and you're not on Snapchat, it might be a good idea for you to use that as a marketing channel because you're getting a lot of clients who are in there. So if that's your ideal client, then it would behoove you to be on the platform that your ideal client is on. For the most part, Facebook and Instagram is enough for the majority of Lash clients. And then relevant personal and medical history. They don't have to give you their entire life story. I don't need to know about like surgeries unless it's related to the eye. I don't need to know about anything going on down south. Medications they're taking, anything that's going into the body is relevant because it can impact their immune system, their ability to heal, their ability to retain lashes. Like thyroid medication oftentimes has a really big impact on hair growth. Anything that would deplete the immune system can cause retention issues or lash loss. Diabetes is a big one because diabetes, the body has a hard time healing. And so if you rip out a lash, that lash may take a really long time to come back or it may never come back. So they may even be contraindicated based on the medications they're taking. But again, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor, as far as I know. So anything that you are concerned about or question or you're just not sure with when it comes to the conditions listed on the intake form, send them to their doctor, have them call their doctor, get the okay doctor's note, then they're good to go get lashes because their doctor said it's not going to have an impact on their overall care and treatment. Cancer patients, it's really a catch-22. If their doctor's okay with it, fine, but I tend to steer clear because I don't want to cause more harm than good. They're already dealing with a lot. Their body is overburdened with the chemo treatments. So if somebody is receiving chemo, I say wait until 6 months after chemo has stopped. When they stop their chemo, usually their doctor will give them a prescription for a hair growth serum like a Latisse to help kind of get their hair cycles going again because they've kind of gone dormant during chemo. So the last thing I want to do is start putting lashes on when the hair is just starting to come back and starting to grow again. I don't want to cause any damage. I don't know if it's going to be permanent or not. I understand wanting to have some semblance of, femininity back when you lose all your hair. But just on my end, I would rather look at the long term that, in 6 months time, get your natural lash health back up and thriving again. And then we'll rock out a lash set and we'll, celebrate your recovery then. That's just my take on it. Take it or leave it. And then it talks about what side they sleep on, how fast they feel their hair grows. Those are just kind of all indicators if they have retention issues that you could look there. And then if there's an option for them to tell you anything else they think you should know, you never know what might pop up. But if they think it's relevant or if they have any questions, that might be where they would put it. One thing I do want to address on here, and I do address it in the video, but in case you don't end up watching the video, they're allergic to fake nails. So acrylic nails, it's the same bonding agent in the acrylic nails as it is in our cyanoacrylate that's in our adhesives. If they've had acrylic nails, I would say it's a no-go. They're likely to have a reaction to our adhesives. You can always do a patch test, but I'm not really willing to risk somebody getting an allergy if I already am aware of a past allergy. The consultation is also really good for figuring out if they can move forward. And you have to be okay with saying, I'm sorry, no, you're not a good candidate for lashes. I'm really looking out for your health. I know you had your heart set on these beautiful lashes, but really it's doing more harm than good. And so, we're not doctors, but promising to do no harm, probably not a bad way to run a business. All right, moving on to page 2 of your worksheets. So the consultation conversation. So they filled out the paperwork. You're starting to go over it with them. Their everyday makeup habits is something, if they come in with makeup, it's kind of a catch-22, right? Like I don't want them to come in with makeup because it's more I have to clean off, but it also gives me an idea of what their everyday makeup wear is. So for me, I don't go super heavy on my eye makeup. I like eyeliner and I like mascara. So if I were looking at myself and doing a consultation with myself, I would say, okay, she wants more density at the lash line to give her the eyeliner look, but she doesn't need like this mega volume, super heavy look. It's just not appropriate. So club lashes don't look good in the office, right? So if they work 9 to 5, they want something that's noticeable, but maybe not extreme to keep that professional image. So just looking at where they're at, if they want to show you pictures, them during their everyday normal wear, that might be something. If they do, if they're in the entertainment industry or if they're kind of in front of people a lot, they may want something bolder. So if they're used to strip lashes, that would be a way for you to be able to go bolder. And then go over any relevant lifestyle factors. So if they swim, tell them they can still swim. It's fine. The lashes are waterproof. It's kind of a selling opportunity for you. Like, you're good to go to continue your lifestyle, but just wear goggles. Like, you're going to get more retention out of your lashes if you wear goggles when you swim. If they work out really heavy, they should clean afterwards. So hot yoga is the same. Anytime they're sweating, they need to cleanse right after they work out, because then it'll help the lashes to last a little bit longer rather than that sweat sitting on there and kind of breaking down or breeding bacteria. If they smoke or if they bake, you need to talk about how the extensions are an actual like plastic type material that will melt or singe or burn. And if that happens, that's on them to pay to have that full set replaced or to have them repaired. I did have a client who left her appointment and was lighting a candle or lighting a cigarette with a candle, and the flame got here and like singed, like just almost got to the point where it touched her natural lashes. So the extensions had melted so much that it got close to her natural lashes. How did they hear about you? This is huge for you to understand what marketing is working. So this client somehow heard about you, liked what you had, liked what she saw, and came in and booked an appointment. That's what you want, right? You want to replicate that path that she went on. So understanding how she found out about you, you probably already know how she booked, whether she booked online or she messaged you or called you. Taking note of that, you need to know how she found you and how you can market that and how you can pour more time and energy into this path that she went, especially if she's an awesome client, and try to make more of that, recreate that magic. As a side note, if it's a one-time event that they're getting it for, so say it's their wedding or their daughter's wedding, what have you, you need to make sure that the event is far enough away that if they were to have a reaction, that it's not going to impact their event. God forbid you ruin someone's wedding day because they had an allergic reaction 3 days before. It's not something I'm willing to risk. If they do state that it is for an event and they haven't made you aware of that previously, I require that it's at least 3 weeks before the event that they come in. Kind of almost treat it like a makeup trial, right? So they come in, they get their lashes done, they get to sit with it for a couple of weeks, and when they come in for their touch-up, maybe we'll book an extra long touch-up, but we can change anything that they want changed. So maybe they weren't long enough, maybe they weren't curly enough, maybe they weren't dramatic enough, whatever. At least I have time to make that happen. Also, if they're 3 weeks out, if they do have an allergic reaction, they have enough time to go in, see the doctor, get any sort of antihistamines that they need to get, and have everything clear up for the big day. Because I can't imagine like how awful I would feel if someone couldn't get just if their wedding day was ruined because they had hamburger eyes or their eyes were swelled shut. I mean, I can't even imagine, it gives me chills, right? So we don't want to put ourselves in that situation. I don't want a bride thinking about me on her wedding day, especially not if I've ruined it, right? And I had this case where a woman came in with her 2 daughters. The 2 daughters, I had done their lashes for a really long time, and they wanted to book their mom in. I didn't realize that the wedding was like 3 days away. And so the mom had booked in. She was filling all of this intake form out. And she told me, oh, why did you ask if I had a reaction to nails before? And I said, because there's similar ingredients in it. She's like, well, I'm allergic to acrylic nails. I can't have it. I'm like, oh, thank God I had her fill this out because I didn't know. And the wedding was 3 days away. Can you imagine the mother of the bride not wanting to be in the photos on her daughter's wedding day? No. So that is why this is like so hugely important, to get a baseline of information to help you learn how to market yourself more and to prevent any issues moving forward so that everybody has a great experience and they want to keep coming back. All right. This is a question I guarantee your competition is not asking. What kind of experience would really wow them today? It's kind of an awkward one to say because you're like, well, what would make you happy with my service or, your experience? Because you're kind of almost, I don't know, do clients want us to guess what would make them happy? No, I'd rather have them tell me and me deliver. If they say, wow, if I could have such a relaxing experience that I'd fall asleep, and that would just wow me. So, don't be afraid to ask the question to see what would really make an awesome experience, because chances are if one client wants that, then a lot of clients probably want that. So it may be something that you can incorporate into each and every service rather than it being just this guessing game of, I don't know what makes my clients happy besides great lashes. How can you enhance and improve the experience to get that loyalty, to get that raving fan of yours, to keep, talking about your lashes and the experience and, oh my God, she's amazing, right? And then one of the most important questions, what kind of results are they hoping to achieve? So when you get someone to tell you what they want, I want them to go into detail in their own words for two reasons. One, the words that they use are likely the words that will draw in other clients. So lash artists have this obsession of using beautiful and fluffy in every marketing post that I've seen. Oh, they're so beautiful and fluffy, but clients may not want that. Clients may not be using that word. Or maybe I just want them to look really spiky, or want them to look, really soft. There may be different words that your clients are using that you can then incorporate into your marketing so that clients, the everyday human, not the certified lash artist, will start to use that you can draw them in more because they can relate to it. Like, oh my gosh, her lashes do look so soft and like touchable, feelable, even though we don't want them to, but that may just be the imagery that we're putting out there by saying soft rather than fluffy. Also, like I said, is it natural or dramatic, bold or soft? Having them put into their own words what they want and then me translating it. So usually what happens is I'm sitting at my desk, I'm not standing over them. They're sitting in front of me and I'm going over the paperwork and I say, okay, tell me what result you're wanting today with your lashes. What's the purpose of them? Well, I hate wearing my strip lashes every day. I'm just tired of it and I want to try something different. Okay, so for me, I heard she wears strip lashes every day. So she's used to a bold look. I can go in a higher D if we're doing volume. So I can go 4 or 5D, maybe even make a volume might be the good option for her. I might be able to upsell her on a higher service if what she wants, she's not going to get with a classic look. And I know as far as a bold look or drama, if she's using strip lashes, she probably wants some texture in there too. So that's what's translating into my head, what she's saying. But I want to say back to her what I'm hearing so that I know we're on the same page. So I don't do this really bold, heavy look. And she's like, oh my God, these are too much, right? We don't want that. I say, okay, I'm understanding you're saying you want some drama. So what I'm noticing, if you have strip lashes, are you doing really spiky ones? Are you doing the natural look? Because there are natural strip lash looks, right? Do you wear eyeliner? Do you cat eye your eyeliner out? That way I know kind of what style and where I'm going to place length and emphasis based on what she is used to in her everyday makeup routine. If you get a client who says, I don't wear any makeup and I would like to look like a little more awake and alert, I know I'm not going to go bold. I'm just going to focus on enhancing what she has by a couple of millimeters, maybe adding just a touch of curl and really focus on bringing out her eye shape so that I'm not overwhelming her with this really heavy look. I'm just being true to what she already has and just bringing it up. We're up leveling it, right? So those are ways that you can start to dig in deep rather than just, I want dramatic. Okay, dramatic isn't the same to everyone. I also look at their face shape, and with that, this is kind of a delicate thing you got to kind of practice. I will evaluate their face shape and their eye shape and point out things that are not symmetrical, but in a nice kind of delicate way. Not like, oh my God, your eyes are like this. I'm going to balance it out. No, I'll notice that one eye is slightly lifted than the other. I'm actually going to use the curls of the lashes to adjust that and make them look even. It will help to open up your eye. If they're on the more mature side, clients. We call older clients as mature. I really kind of sell on, I'm going to use a stronger curl out towards the end to really give you a lift on the outer corner so that we don't worry about drooping into the eye. Just as a technique side note, shorten the lashes on the outer corner of the eye so you never get that droop or the dip, almost to the point where you're almost right here and you really drop down the length. That will help prevent from any dipping or drooping lashes. And then, so one thing that Lash 411 said one time that I loved is clients tell you what they want, you tell them what they can have. So we're not magicians. We can't just make stuff appear from nowhere. So if they want something that is not appropriate for their natural lashes, this is where we can get into conversation of, so my main philosophy is not to damage the natural lashes. So I will go as big and bold and dramatic as you want for what's safe for your natural lash. So your natural lash can only handle so much weight without it causing damage. So I can take you to that point, but I just want to set the expectation that I can't go any heavier or any longer. So if at the end of this you want them longer, we may have to go thinner on the extension just so that we're keeping the natural lash health in mind. If every lash artist started off their lash appointments like that, can you imagine how that would revolutionize our industry for people assuming that eyelash extensions damage natural lashes? Just by that one conversation, setting the expectation and setting kind of the tone of what's appropriate for a natural lash health and clients understanding that you can have natural or you can have extensions and keep your natural lash health intact, mind blown. So that's, if you're not going to do anything from a consultation other than express that you only do what's safe for the natural lash, then by God, I've done my due diligence in educating you. And so I think it's really important to establish that. And that also gives you a security net and a safety net for if they're unhappy and they want to change anything. Okay, but where's the natural lash health fall into play? So they're not full enough. Okay, we'll go down in the thickness of the extension, but we're going to add more in there to give you more thickness. You can kind of have either length or density. It's hard to have both, right? So just telling them in a way that they understand without getting too technical and without getting into curls and diameters and all that too much. Just set the expectation that your priority is their natural lash health. If at any point, and I would say this often because again, natural lash health was my specialty and it's what I built my brand and my business on. And I said, if at any point I notice that your natural lashes are no longer thriving with the extensions we have on them, I'm going to start changing things. And I will let you know, I will give you a heads up that that's happening and how we can work together to make sure that your natural lash health is thriving. So that is a huge way for me to not only establish myself as an expert, that I am an artist and I can work around natural lashes to try and get them the result that they want, but also it helps support my unique selling point that I'm a natural lash health specialist and I'm a do or die by it, right? That's just my niche. That's my target people, is people who want extensions, but with their natural lash health intact. Finally, during the results part, I also talk about the purpose of eyelash extensions, which ties into, they tell you what they want and you tell them what they can have. For me, as an artist, I think lashes are just meant to enhance what we already have. They're not to create something that doesn't exist. So I'm not a huge fan of mega volume, right? Unless there's somebody who is on TV or on a stage a lot or a performer of some aspect. I don't think these big chunky caterpillars sitting on your lashes is healthy or safe for natural lash, nor do I think it's the purpose. I want clients who are just everyday women who want to feel better about themselves and who want to feel just a little more feminine and a little more beautiful. That's what lashes do for me. I don't like mega volume on me. I don't really like anything higher than a 3D on my lashes because it starts to get too heavy. And when they grow out, it's just a little too much for me. So I want to attract women who see lashes as just something to make them feel better and make them feel beautiful, and that they can have a little bit of me time and self-care. All right, moving on to aftercare and maintenance. So at the beginning of the appointment, talk about the expected aftercare and the expected maintenance. That way, at the end of appointment, you go over it again. So they're hearing it 2 times. And then I had printed out little business cards with a list of kind of the main things to watch out for aftercare and maintenance that I would then hand to them saying, look, I know we went over a lot of information today and some of it may have just glazed over you. So here's this card. If you go home and you're not sure, look over this card, see if it answers your question. If not, please feel free to reach out and, give me a call or a text if you have a question. But there can be a lot to the maintenance aspect of it when they're first learning that they may not be aware of. So going over it a couple of times, both at the beginning and at the end, and then sending them home with something and having it on your website. A lot of places that they have access to this information, instead of blowing your phone up all the time for one single question, you can kind of circumvent that constant communication with them and empower them to find their own answers. Then after the intake forms gone over your policy, go over your policy forms. So the big ones are your refund policy and your cancellation policy, because those are the things that tie to money that people get real cranky about if they're not aware. So for me, cancellation policy was, I do my best to be consistent with my time, be available to you as much as I can. So I do need you to make sure that you're canceling your appointment within 24 hours. You will receive a text message and an email 72 hours before your appointment and 24 hours. So you're aware that it's coming up. So for me, that's me telling them there's no excuse for you not to cancel, because I'm giving you plenty of opportunities and reminders. So, if you cancel within that 24-hour time frame, it is a 50% fee for a cancellation fee. If you cancel within 4 hours of your appointment, I consider that a no-show up to your appointment, and it is 100%. So you will need to pay that, whether you keep a credit card on file, whether you send them an invoice, and I stick to it. So they are allowed one emergency where they can cancel at any time during that 24 hours as kind of my, okay, that's your one-time exception, because stuff does come up. I mean, I'm a mom. It happens, like emergencies happen. I do want to be human, but to an extent. So I tell them, you have one-time exception, and then after that, the cancellation policy will apply no matter what the circumstance is. That way, again, I'm setting the expectation, and I'm also setting the boundary so that they're not going to walk all over me and say, but this happened in my sob story, and, my niece or my son or, my husband, whatever. I get it. There's tons of stuff happening. This is just what I've said. You get one time, and then I'm sorry, you're going to need to pay if you want to continue to be a client of mine. And if they don't want to be a client of mine, bye-bye. You're going to respect my time. I'm going to respect yours. It's teamwork. The refund policy is huge. And also, what would qualify them for a free service? So because what I do goes home with you, you're paying for my time, right? Like, I can't get the product back and I can't get my time back. So I have a very strict no refund policy, whether you have an allergy, whether you don't like the work, whatever. There's no refunds. What I can offer you, if you're unhappy with the results of today for whatever reason, or you notice that they're falling out very quickly, you have about a 72-hour window to contact me to let me know that you're unhappy, and I'm happy to fix it with a 30-minute express touch-up to try and fix whatever the issue is. Just please allow me that 72 hours to fix whatever work is happening. Now, just if they reach out to you in 72 hours and you don't have availability till maybe mid next week or 4 or 5 days away from their appointment, that's okay. They've made the effort to tell you they're unhappy. You can then fix it with whatever's appropriate whenever you can. If they contact you a week or two later saying, you know what, they started falling out after 3 days, you can then say, I let you know in our consultation that you had 3 days to let me know that there was an issue, because after 3 days, I can't guarantee that the products or the application was the issue with your retention. So much has happened between when you were last in here and now that I don't know whether it was me or whether it was you. So because it's a wash, I have to protect my time. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to pay for the full appointment. That, again, if you have a really thorough consultation, you have something to back yourself up with that they can't play dumb like, oh, I never knew, you owe me, or I'm going to write a bad review kind of a thing, right? We've already set the expectation and we've set the boundary. And then review of the process and questions. So again, you're still sitting there, and this really doesn't take all this long to go through. It takes maybe 10 minutes, maybe 7, just depending on how much interaction there is or how much explanation you need for things. But I always tell them what's going to happen first, and then I repeat it when I'm got them on the table. So, all right, so I'm going to bring you over to the table. I'm going to go ahead and assess your lashes to make sure that everything's good to go. And then I will do a full cleanse of your lash line to ensure that, there's no residual makeup, so the adhesive has a really good surface to bond to. I will then tape your bottom lashes down so they don't get in the way. And you have to remember that clients, if this is their first time, they have no idea what to expect, no idea what's going on. They may think this may take a couple minutes because you're just gluing clusters on with Ardell glue, right? Like, you have to tell them a little bit of what's involved in it. You don't have to say a whole lot, but enough to make them feel comfortable and understand, okay, I need to keep my eyes closed. This is also the time that you tell them that they shouldn't be talking during their appointment and why. And then you reiterate it when they're in the bed. So if you have clients that distract you and are talking the whole time and you're slow, you need to tell them it's not okay to talk. And it's better to tell them up front beforehand, before they're in bed and they've been talking for 3 or 4 appointments now. And you're like, look, I just need you to shut up. So I always tell them, I'm going to get you in laying on the table, and then I'm going to put the iPads on. And once the iPads are on, that's when you can start to relax and go to sleep. I can't have you talking because as you talk, your cheeks move, and I don't want to risk the iPads going into your eye and affecting the end result. That's all you got to say. And then we'll go through lashing. At the end, I will fan you off or mist you or whatever is kind of their signal for it's the end of the appointment. And I'm going to need you to keep your eyes closed until I remove the iPads and instruct you to open your eyes. Okay, so that's as simple as going over the process, and you can get into more details when you have them on the treatment table. And then you say, do you need to use the restroom before we get started? It will be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Okay, come on over. And then you go through the walkthrough part of it, which we're going to get into now. So the artistry, assessment, and design. So this is once you've walked them over to the treatment table and you lay them down, and before you ever touch them, you want to just look at their natural lashes as to make sure that there's no like major blaring red flags that you can't continue with the treatment any further. We're talking pink eye, we're talking major gaps in their lash line. Like I've had 2 new clients who came in because they had an eyelash curler that like ripped out big chunks of their lash line. Clients don't often understand that we can't glue to the skin. You know, if they've never had them before, they just assume it's kind of similar to a strip lash where you can glue it to the skin. So I tell them if it's big enough that, I'm sorry, unfortunately, until your lashes start to grow back there, I have nothing to glue it to, and lashes are only going to enhance that gap and make it more noticeable. So let me send you home with a lash growth serum and put you on some lash rehab. If you can try and get away with strip lashes until we start to have a little bit of hair growth in there, so maybe 6 weeks from now, maybe 8 weeks, you know, I just am not comfortable moving forward because it's only going to enhance that area and just make it more noticeable. And they'll probably appreciate that because they don't understand. I mean, they'll probably be disappointed, right? But it's better than that you just like, well, I'm going to make it work. And they open their eye and all of a sudden there's this big, huge gap, even more so than it was before. So pink eye, again, don't touch it. Just say, I'm so sorry. It seems you have an infection. I would like for you to go get it checked out by your doctor, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to move forward today. And then, you know, follow them with Lysol and like sanitizer on everything they touch, because you don't want that getting around your stuff because it catches like wildfire. I'm kind of on the fence of whether I should move forward. If you're ever on the fence, if you should move forward with a client, do not move forward. Just tell them, you know, it looks like something's going on with your eye. This woman knew what was going on and she was on the healing side of it, but she wasn't quite fully healed. Anytime the eye is irritated and inflamed from anything, whether it's lashes or not, do not move forward, because you're only going to aggravate it. You're only going to make it worse, or you could be responsible for something really bad happening with their eye. You know, especially if their eye is irritated, we can get sick through our eye. It's the closest way for germs and whatnot to get into our sinus cavity. So we want to be very careful that we're not introducing any bacteria or spreading bacteria around that's on other parts of the eye. Just if anything looks off or weird, have them go get it checked out. Be comfortable saying, I'm not comfortable moving forward with this because I noticed something's off, and really I don't want to do more harm than good. It's really going to affect your overall result and your ability for retention. And that's not what we're here to do today. We want you walking out of here with beautiful lashes. So let's get you healthy first and then come back and we'll rock out a full set. So also if they're coming in with lashes from other salons. So for me, you probably know that I do work on other salons. New client touch-ups is what I call them, right? So they're new clients to me, but they already have extensions. They don't want to pay for a full set. So they're paying higher price than my highest touch-up, but lower than my full set. It's kind of right in the middle, because I don't want to punish them if they got a full set that they didn't like, because they're coming to me to fix it, right? That looks good on me, and they're trusting me to repair whatever was wrong. But there are times when you cannot work on someone else's work. So I, again, always take the basis of what is your natural lash health looking like? So if they just got these lashes done like 2 weeks ago, the retention is bad and they've fallen out and they're just not happy with it and they wanted to try somewhere else, most likely I'm able to work on it. I do have it listed in my policies page that a touch-up is considered 15 extensions per eye or more to be considered a touch-up. Anything less than that, then it's a full set. And I actually count the extensions if it's someone new to me, or if I'm questioning that if there's enough to be considered a touch-up. 15 is a number I can count pretty quickly. You know, it may be more for you. I can work with 15 to get to a full set in the time frame that I have set aside for a new client touch-up. So whatever that number is to you, people who use percentages like must have 50% left on your, your lash line. Who knows what 50% is, right? Like unless you're lash counting and then you go through and count the remaining lashes, 50% is too vague for clients to understand and for lash artists to, stand firm on, like, nope, sorry, you're at 49% and my policy says 50%. I can't, it's a full set today. You're going to piss off clients real easy. So I would have an actual physical number, because 15 is a tangible number. I can count 15 lashes. Setting that expectation ahead of time so that they are aware that it may be a full set or maybe a higher cost. Again, that involves their money, is a good way to eliminate any, well, I didn't know that, or, whatever. And all of a sudden you've botched yourself out of a full set. A lot of lash artists just feel like, well, the money's better for me to have a touch up than no client at all who walks out of here unhappy. That's usually the way it goes, right? But if you've already set the expectation that you need to have 15 extensions per eye in order for it to be considered a new client touch-up, otherwise it's a full set, then the client goes, okay, you know what? I'm sorry, you only have 9 extensions per eye. And as we discussed, and you're kind of aware, this is not fillable, right? Like, it's not a touch-up. It's actually a full set. And quite honestly, you're going to be happy. I could leave those 9 extensions in there. They're probably going to fall out really quickly anyways. So you'd probably want me to put a new extension on as it is and keep with the overall style and design of the eye, right? Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward with the full set. Signs of blepharitis is very tricky. So for the most part, signs of blepharitis are buildup at the lash line of skin, or not usually makeup, skin or bacteria. It almost looks like there's follicles that are, when you get a zit and you kind of pop it and stuff comes out, it kind of looks like that. Like there's just buildup in the follicle or around the base of the hairline. If their lashes pop, their natural lashes pop out really easily. Like even if you're brushing through and you kind of start to notice that their natural lashes are popping out, it's because their natural lash health is not great. We can't diagnose, hey, you have blepharitis, you need to go see your doctor. But you can say things like, it looks like something's going on here. Because I'm not a doctor, I don't want to say what it is, but there might be signs of what's called blepharitis. It could be something that maybe you're prone to. And those who are prone to it, whether they're more mature clients or that's just something that they struggle with, they're probably aware that they have that issue because they've probably sought past medical expertise on it. Somebody who has chronic recurring blepharitis, not a candidate for eyelash extensions. Again, do more good than harm. And as we add extensions to that natural lash, we're increasing the surface area. So there's more room and opportunities for bacteria to breed in there. And if they already have blepharitis, it's just going to make it worse. If it's blepharitis due to hygiene and they just need to clean their lashes more, if they're already a client of yours, go ahead and sell them a cleanser. Say, look, your natural lash health is deteriorating. I think this cleanser might help you, but we're going to give it 2 more touch-ups. And if it hasn't cleared up by then, we're going to have to do a full removal and let you go see a doctor because I'm not comfortable moving forward because your natural lash health is being impacted negatively right now. Past allergies, if they have had allergic reactions to eyelash extensions in the past, I mean, it's tough. Maybe you want to kind of troubleshoot with them, but honestly, especially if they're a new client to you, I'm not going to be the one who causes you to have another reaction. You can do a patch test. A patch test is never on the skin. It's never on the wrist or behind the ear. That's for skincare or hair color. But our adhesive does not go on the skin. So you have to actually get them down, put the iPad on, do a cleanse, put the iPad on, and test extensions. This is just my personal format for it. Take it or leave it. I only do it on one eye, and I document and take photos of both eyes, but one with the lashes on, so that if they're concerned or I'm not sure if I'm having a reaction, but I do have a little bit of swelling, I'll have them send me a picture and I can compare. If there's any itching, watering, swelling, or redness that happens just on that one eye and not the other, likely they're having a reaction. So thank God you didn't do the full thing. Always patch test first or just completely decline. If you had a reaction in the past, you're more likely to have it again, and it could be worse than the last time because allergies get worse over time the longer they're exposed to the allergen. So just decline them and have them, go somewhere else. Let somebody else experiment on you. You're not doing it on my time. And again, if they're too close to a big event, err on the side of caution and just decline them. Even if their hopes and dreams are set on having eyelash extensions and they waited till the week of their wedding, they waited their whole life to get married. So I'm not going to ruin that. And the evaluation part. So what I do is before I put iPads on, before I cleanse, I start with a C curl. You can do a B curl, but I usually stick with C because I have very few B curl that I use. So I use a C curl and I measure their natural lash length, their longest natural lash. So an adult lash, not the baby lashes. I find an adult lash somewhere in the middle of the eye where it's healthiest and longest. And I measure it with, usually I'll start off just depending on what the natural lash is, but most clients' natural lashes are around an 8 to a 10. And so I will put the base of the extension to the base of the natural lash and figure out what length we're starting at, and I'll document it. So that way, if, they're like, oh my God, you damaged my lashes, or they've worn them for a couple of years and we take them off and they're like, my lashes are so much shorter, I can actually go and say, actually, no, they're a millimeter longer than when we started. So lashes were actually really good for you. They let your lashes, grow more. But always having a place to start with where their natural lash length is, the longest length. Also, that can help you style. Okay, you're at an 8 millimeter. Again, we discussed that keeping your natural lashes safe means I can only go 2 to 3 millimeters longer than what you currently have. So I'm going to build my style around that. If you want longer, we need to go thinner. I'll also evaluate the health of it, the thickness of their natural lashes. So if they're really thin and delicate, I can't put a 0.15 on it, even though 0.15 is typically the highest I'll go for classic. Maybe I need to bump it down to a 0.12 or a 0.10, because you're going to get twisting, you're going to get premature fallout of their natural lashes, you're going to get damage if you overburden that natural lash. So always, always, always make sure you know where you're starting so you know where you have to go. And especially if they're coming in with lash damage from another place, or you're trying to show that their lashes are damaged, you can say, well, you're at 8 today, and then, maybe 6 months from then, they've been coming to you consistently and you're doing work that's healthy on their natural lashes. You can measure, look, your lashes are now a 10 millimeter. Like, that's how much it was damaging to your natural lashes, that you weren't getting more than an 8 millimeter in length. And now we've gotten you 2 extra millimeters. Like, that's a big deal to show that their natural lash health is thriving. So the process of prepping, priming, and placement. Again, I still consider this all to be part of the consultation for that first time with the client. And I'm establishing boundaries and expectations as I go throughout the thing. And then once they've done that one time, I don't have to do all this again, right? Like, you don't have to explain everything every single time. But when you do have a new client, you want to establish, I'm an expert. You're getting a different experience with me than you are at like an amazing lash studio where they're just kind of coming in, throwing some lashes on you and sending you on your way. So I do soft physical touches, so on their head, or I'm looking at their eye, just kind of establishing trust and security by soft touches. During the evaluation, that would be when you would take the artistry. The artistry part is where you would take photos of the before, get them sitting up, getting them facing a light. You can get some closed eye shots, get them laying down. But again, most flattering marketing photos, you want straight on, looking into a light, maybe just a slight smile so that they look like it's not like a mugshot. That way you can have a before and after side by side. Okay, now moving on to prep, prime, and placement. So explain what you're doing as you're doing it. That way they're not startled or surprised or kind of jerky. So I will usually start with cleansing the lid. So, okay, I'm going to use a cleanser on your lashes. It's a foaming cleanser. That's the one I used. It's as gentle as baby shampoo. It isn't baby shampoo, and I don't want them using baby shampoo, and you shouldn't be using baby shampoo either. But I say it's as gentle so they don't think that they're getting, like, they don't scrunch their eyes because they think of chemical or the foam or the soap gets in there, it's going to burn. I just want them to keep their eyes relaxed because I need to be able to get to their lash line. If they squinch up, sometimes it's hard to get to the base of the natural lash where, we do most of our work. So I say, I'm going to count to 3, and then I'll pump a little bit of foam onto your eye, and then I'll use a brush to cleanse through it, and I'm going to get through the lashes. So I do that, and I count to 3, and I pump. And as I'm cleansing their lashes, I'm talking about how they should cleanse their lashes at home, because it's getting both what it feels like for them and the explanation of it, so that they're not at home rinsing with a little bit of water and a little bit of Dove soap and they're good to go. I talk about, why they should be using lash specific cleanser. Hey, opportunity for retail at the end because you've already set them up for it. How it impacts the health of the lash, how you need to get down to the lash line. If they wear makeup, they need to, cleanse their lashes every night. If they're not wearing makeup, maybe it's just a couple days a week that they cleanse their lash line. But it is important to keep, to cleanse the lashes to ensure their lash health is intact, and because it will help their lashes last longer. All right. And then I rinse with a saline solution, like a contact solution, because for me in San Diego, because we have a lot of humidity, I don't need to rinse with a saline solution. Saline solution is a good rinse for those with lower humidity because the saline helps to bring moisture towards the lash line. You could just use distilled water. I don't prime. That's why I don't prime, because we have a lot of humidity here, and the saline is enough to act as a primer for the follicle. You use primer to help open up the shaft of the hair follicle so that the adhesive has more stuff to bond to, just as a heads up. But primer, when you use too much, can start to dry out the follicle, or the actual physical hair, not the follicle. So you know how like the structure of the hair is kind of almost like plated, like roof tiles. So the primer will help to open those up. So if you do use a primer, tell them I'm using a primer and why you're using it. Again, you're establishing your mastery and building trust. And then placement of the iPads. So depending on how you place your iPads, you want to talk about, let me just explain how I do it. So I have them open their eyes. I line up the iPad with their bottom lash line. I don't put it on yet because, again, as they're looking up, this part of their eye is tight. And then when they close, it's relaxed. So that's how the iPad slides into the eye if you place it while their eye is back. I place it along right below the waterline. And as they close, I follow the angle that they're closing when I place the iPad. So some people will keep the eye closed and lift the lid and place it that way. My fingers aren't dexterous enough to do that. So the way that I do it works. And then I'll kind of shimmy it down if I need to. And I'll double check by lifting their lid to make sure it's not in the waterline. Because if an iPad is ever in the waterline when their eye is closed, it will irritate their eye. But for clients who have never had lashes before, who don't understand why their eyes water, I want to set them up to know what to expect and what's normal and what's not normal. So I put the iPad down and I'm explaining, there are times if the iPad will move, especially if you're talking, again, no talking, that it may cause your eye to water. So if you ever feel like your eye's starting to get a little uncomfortable or starting to water, let me know. It's oftentimes just as simple as moving around the iPad. If the iPad does get close to the eye and the water that's in the eye, it can puff up and swell, which would be really irritating for you. So we may have to replace the iPad altogether, but I just want to give you a heads up. Most of the time when your eyes water, it's because the iPad is too close to the eye, not because any fumes are getting in there. If their eyes don't fully close and you've stood up and you've kind of turned and faced them and you can see that their eye is open, you can see the white part of their eye when they're closed, you can let them know, you know what, your eye doesn't fully close, so I'm not actually going to tape back your eye. I'm just going to, place a little pressure. You can try your best to, oftentimes taping it this way will get their eye to close. Just explain to them that's the case. So if, God forbid, they open their eyes at the end and they've gotten really red from fumes getting in there and kind of washing in there because their eye didn't close all the way, you've already set up why. They don't have to freak out that all of a sudden they're having a reaction or you've permanently damaged them. It's just temporary. It was just because the fumes got too close to the eye because your eye didn't seal shut. And you can kind of work around that in the future. So again, you're setting the expectation. So moving on to the experience. So the experience, talking, napping, and eyes closed. No, I am not cutting your lashes. How many of you have gotten that question? Like, are you cutting my lashes? Do you have scissors back there? No, it's just my tweezers. So I tell them, if you hear anything that sounds like this, and I'll make the sample sound where I'll run my tweezers across each other, I'm like, it's not that I'm cutting your lashes. It's that I am either getting glue off my tweezers or my tweezers have rubbed together. So there's no scissors involved in your lash line. There shouldn't be scissors involved in people's natural lashes. Just FYI. I went to a conference in Vegas when I was first starting out, and the woman who was running a shop there for lashes would cut natural lashes to make them straight so that she had a straight bond rather than wonky, weird lashes. I will never forget that. Let them know it's okay to fall asleep. In fact, it's actually preferred. I always say if they snore, it's a compliment to me. So that if they actually do snore and they startle themselves awake, they're not embarrassed. I'm like, no, it's a compliment. Like, you're so relaxed in my care. It's preferred that you sleep because you get refreshed and rejuvenated. I can work quickly. It's win-win. Talk about the importance of keeping their eyes closed the entire situation. No opening their eyes to look at text message. No opening their eyes, if they're startled, just remember you have to keep your eyes closed the whole time. If they do open their eyes too soon, then what happens? They have burning, they have watering. That's going to affect the retention if their eyes watering gets on their lashes. Everybody just needs to keep their eyes closed until I tell you it's okay to open your eyes. And no talking after their iPad's been placed, and you need to concentrate, which is why they can't talk. So those are kind of what you touch on during the experience part. And then the possibilities. This is something that everybody should do, but I guarantee most don't. The toilet temperature tickles tears in the telly. So if you have clients, and I know of a couple lash artists, some of who are in this group, who will read their clients' text messages for them. And I can't think of anything that takes away more time and distraction from a lash artist being able to be efficient and work effectively and keep track of where they're at than trying to squint and read somebody's text messages. Okay, can you text back? Or, hey, can you answer this call? Unless it's an emergency, no. And I have had clients come in, hey, my dad's in the hospital. We're waiting to hear back about some test results. I may need to take a phone call. Fine. If you're going to have a meeting during your appointment, I'm going to tell you, you need to reschedule around your meetings. Really, it is important that everybody is calm, relaxed. It's a relaxing environment, especially if you work in a place where there's other people. Somebody talking on their phone, having a phone conference while they're getting lashes done and ruining other people's experiences, it's a no-go. So tell them if they need to fidget, move, cough, sneeze, whatever, just give me a heads up so I can remove my hands. I do have sharp utensils in my hands, and so I want to make sure that we're not having any accidents. So if you have to cough or you feel a sneeze coming on or you have a tickle or an itch, just let me know and I'll move my hands and I'll, if you need to sit up or whatever, let me know. I had one woman who was about to have a cough attack. And so she told me, I removed my hands and she was having a real hard time that I could tell her eyes were going to water because she was keeping them closed. But I sat her up. I told her, I'm going to go get you some water. Stay here. Don't move. And then I helped her with the water and then the cough attack went away and she was fine to move on. But had she not, she would have been having a cough attack with me with my hands there and like glue everywhere. So it was nice that I was able to set the precedence of, if you need to do something, let me know. It's cool if you do it. I'm going to take my hands away. Again, if their eyes feel itchy, watery, or fumy, it's not something you have to grin and bear it through. Please let me know so that we can fix whatever the issue is. If you think, oh, this is just part of getting eyelash extensions that it burns, that's not normal. So we need to adjust what's happening or figure out what the cause is, because if your eyes are burning, that's your body's way of saying, I don't like what's going on. All right, bathroom is a big one. So especially if they've never had lashes before, not drinking a bunch of water before their appointment is probably a good idea, but they may not be comfortable for sitting for 2 or 3 hours. So I always give them, if it's a volume set and it's a really long appointment, I will say, I will let you know when we're about halfway through the appointment to sit up and move around. I can't have you go to the bathroom though, because it takes too much time away to undo everything. But sometimes stuff happens. I did have a client who was going to have an accident and not on the number one side, but the other side, if I didn't let her get up and go. So she went. But it does take time away from the appointment and you're not going to extend the time because they need to use the bathroom in the middle of the appointment. So just setting that expectation. And then phone usage. Don't let your clients use their phones. That is not what your appointment is for. It's not time to be productive or get stuff done. It's time for them to relax and take a nap. And if they cannot work their business schedule or whatever around these appointments, then maybe lashes aren't for them. But it's not up to you to be their secretary. And then if they get hot or cold, again, this is just like a nice hospitality thing. If you get too chilly, let me know. I'm happy to wrap you up in a blanket. It'll take just a quick second, so it's not a huge chunk of their time. Or if they're too warm, let me know. I'll turn on a fan or the air conditioning as long as it doesn't mess with my humidity in the room. That way you're really enhancing the customer experience. And last but not least, the final reveal. So you've done all this great work. You've spent hours slaving over this set and they open their eye and they're like, okay, kind of that underwhelmed thing. Always, always, always brush their lashes, right? Brush them down, fluff them up while their eyes are closed, undo all the tape, everything, make sure their eyebrows aren't crazy, like get them set up to have a really awesome reveal. Clean your mirror often, because clients will look at it like this and their grubby little paws will get all over it. And then they're looking at a mirror that's got handprints all over it. And it just doesn't do much for your sanitation impression and for them to see themselves through greasy French fry hands. So always clean your mirror. Have them open their eyes first and you look at them before you hand them the mirror, right? So if whatever is attached, if their lashes are attached or there's wonky ones or you need to fix anything, you can fix it before they see it, right? Like, oh, I noticed, this side, this one's hanging down too low. I'm actually going to remove it and replace it with a different one. Go ahead and close your eye again, throw on an iPad real quick, adjust that one, let it dry off, and then have them open and then show them once you've given the, okay, yes, you can look because they're really good now, rather than just have your clients open their eyes and they're kind of all wonky. You may not do this for every client once they become consistent, regular clients and they trust your work. But if you have a new client in your bed who you are trying to establish trust with, do that first so that they really are wowed with your skills and your work. If they're unhappy, if you're getting the sense that they're like, or you may just address it outright, that if they're not happy with the work, just live with it for a few days and see if they don't adjust. If they're way too long or whatever, there's not much you can do in that time when they're unhappy. Tell them they can come back in a couple days and we'll fix it. If they want them shorter, let them understand, tell them so that they know that over time they will start to shed out and you'll start adding in more shorter ones so that in a couple weeks the results will be shorter. But it's if they're willing to work with you as you kind of work through what their expected result is, And, next time you'll make note of the things that they want changed, shorter, curlier, more dramatic, whatever. You can try different things. But if you set that expectation before they walk out the door unhappy, say, oh, okay, I noticed, I know you want them fuller. We only did 2D on this volume set. Next time I'll try and go 3 or 4D and see if that doesn't get you a fuller result. If they want an instant result, they're going to have them removed and a new full set, and they're going to have to pay for it because you tried as best you could during your consultation to understand what their expected result was. They got it, and now they're not happy. Tell them what their options are at the end if you sense they're unhappy, rather than just, because if they walk out that door unhappy, they're not coming back. So let them know what their options are for moving forward and working together as a team to reach their desired result. All right, we're getting close to the end. It's the last page on page 4. All right, so if the client is unhappy, so if they're too long, tell them to wear them for a few days. You could remove and do a full new set, but most clients don't want to do that because they just paid for it. Or they can wait till the next appointment and you can continue to add in shorter ones so that over time, you eventually get to the point where they're shorter. All right, if they're too short, say you'll make a note of it and you'll start to add in longer ones. Too short is not necessarily as much as a problem as too long. Too long, it takes longer for those to grow out and they just get longer as they grow out. But too short, they will get a little bit longer as they grow out and you'll start adding in longer ones. So that's a pretty easy fix. And you might want to reiterate, well, I heard you wanted density and now you're saying they're too short. So if we do start adding in longer ones, you may lose some of that density. So just let me know which one is a higher priority for you. If they're not full enough, that's a perfect time for you to upgrade them to either a hybrid or a volume set, depending, or maybe even mega volume if you're already doing volume. It's a nice way for you to say, well, this is what is achievable with a classic set. If you now realize that you do want them a little bit fuller, I recommend we do a hybrid touch-up, or my hybrid was called the signature set, for the next touch-up so that you can get some more fullness. If that's still not enough, we may need to fully upgrade you to volume to get that fullness that you're looking for. You could, if you only offer classic, you could tell them that you could do flat lashes. The way that I explain flat lashes is extension is a circle, and with flat lashes, it's more of an oval, so it gives a little bit of a broader base without adding weight. All right, if they don't like the style, tell them again, in order to change the style immediately, we'd have to remove and do a new full set. But I will make note that next time you want the length more in the middle rather than the outer corner, and we can start to work towards that. It's not an immediate fix. It will be an overtime thing, but in about 2 months, 2 to 3 appointments, we'll have you back. We'll have you with that new style. It's just going to take some time to get there. That is the end of it, guys. And then feel free to utilize the group to the best of your ability. You're going to maximize your results from this group by the more you're active and more participation you have within the group, because I don't know if you need help if you don't ask for help. So ask for help. All right, guys, have a good one.